What if I told you that it was possible for a game to tell an emotional and compelling story with nothing but still images and narration? Would you immediately think of the pile of hot garbage that is Redfall, or would another game come to mind? For me, there's one game that proves that the storytelling style can be incredibly effective. Ace Combat 4: Shattered Skies.
Have so far to go.
Released on November 11th, 2001 for the PlayStation 2, the title was the fourth installment in its series, with the previous game, Ace Combat 3 Electrosphere, having just been released in North America the year before on the PlayStation 1 on March 2nd, 2000. One could argue that Shattered Skies was the most successful game in the franchise, reaching over 2.5 million sales by 2008. It was only just recently surpassed by Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown in sales in 2021. Pretty impressive if you ask me. But what made the game so special? Was it the visual fidelity upgrade provided by the PS2's noticeably more powerful hardware, the improved gameplay, or something else? In my opinion, it was a combination of these and more. What stands out to me most, though, is the story that's told as you progress through the campaign in this slideshow still image style. In it, the narrator is looking back on his childhood experiences of the Continental War. The story is told in a spectacular manner and shows how it is possible to convey strong emotional storytelling through expertly crafted still images and narration.
One day while on my way to school, I looked up in the skies. A sound like distant thunder. In the blue skies far above me, contrails drew dizzying circles around in a crazy waltz. A battle in the beautiful skies far away. I could not tear my gaze away from them. A deafening roar. Sharp silhouettes appeared, as if to graze the hills and streak past me. The fighters played the cat or the mouse in turn as they climbed swiftly into the sky. One fleeing plane fell out of the skies, spiraling and spewing orange flames to crash by the Cape. The same Cape where my family lived. Now they only live in my memories of days past. The victor circled around to confirm the kill. And on his craft, there was a large number 13 emblazoned in yellow.
It depicts the gut-wrenching story of a young boy losing his family to the infamous aircraft with the yellow 13 on its tail, who then goes on to look up to that man as a sort of role model figure, invoking feelings not often experienced in gaming as you progress further and further into the story. In between the tellings of this story, you, as the player, take on the role of Mobius 1, a soon-to-be ace/legendary fighter pilot that is working to push back against the antagonists of the story, the Erusians, across various missions and scenarios. You start off with a basic F-4 Phantom and unlock additional aircraft and weaponry as you progress through the campaign. From the F-5 to the F-14, F-18, Su-37 and more, there's a great selection of iconic fighter craft to choose from, with each having their own set of strengths and weaknesses. Gameplay is exactly what you would expect from an Ace Combat game. It's definitely not a true simulation, but it does a good job of striking a nice balance between fun and realism. Even as a person who has spent a fair amount of time in DCS, I had an absolute blast. For a game that came out so long ago, it's still very playable. Ace Combat 4 was also the first game in the series to incorporate the ability to land and resupply mid-mission.
Mobius 1, perform landing check. You are cleared to land.
You can elect to either skip this process or land manually and proceed to take off and re-enter the combat zone. As I dove back in after not having touched the title for 20 plus years, I found myself getting just as addicted to its gameplay and narrative as I did all those years ago. Games that can reach out over decades and pull you back in like that are far and few between in my opinion. As you move further into the game as Mobius 1, you uncover more and more of the parallel side story. We learned that Yellow 13, the pilot who shot down the plane that crashed into the young boy's home, shows up in the very bar that the boy now takes up residence in. The initial interaction with the man who is responsible for his family's death is not one of anger as one might expect, but instead is a sort of magical or even fated moment. As the man sits strumming his guitar in the corner, he invites the boy to join him in playing the harmonica alongside him. The song he plays, coincidentally, is a familiar one to the narrator.
I had finally found him. But by some fluke, it was my father's favorite song. The one he used to play at the end of each day.
Yellow 13 and his squadron of elite pilots take up residence in the town after being stationed there to defend Stonehenge, the Erusian superweapon that's original purpose was to defend the planet from asteroid impacts. The complex originally designed for planetary defense was repurposed as a terrifying anti-aircraft weapon that allowed the Erusians to dominate and maintain air superiority over the continent almost uncontested. Multiple times throughout the campaign, you're forced to avoid attacks from the weapon by descending to a low altitude or else face certain destruction.
All aircraft incoming from Stonehenge confirmed on radar. Drop below 2,000 feet and head south to exit combat area.
2,000 feet? What do they expect us to do? Go underground?
4 rounds, ETA in 15 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Impact.
As time goes on, the boy begins to respect the pilot more and more, learning that the man has a real sense of honor and begins to realize that maybe the enemy aren't all as bad as his fellow townspeople would lead him to believe. They're human beings just like the rest of us. The Erusian ace isn't most proud of the dozens of kills he's confirmed, but instead is most proud of never losing a squadron member. The boy ends up befriending him and the rest of the squadron, and even finds a new home amongst the invaders. Eventually, the actions of Mobius' squadron and the Allied forces begin to be felt in the town of San Sebastian where the boy lives. The situation goes from Yellow Squadron only being seldomly deployed to far-off locations to strike, the warfront being very far away, to being called upon to strike targets that are much closer, as the tide of war begins to reverse and the Allies advance. Around this time is when the Allied resistance in town strikes, detonating a bomb on Yellow Squadron's runway, injuring Yellow 13's wingman, Yellow 4, and causing serious supply issues for the squadron. The young boy is conflicted on how to feel about this as Yellow Squadron once again departs, hoping to fend off Mobius' squadron from one of Erusia's most valuable assets, Stonehenge itself. As you assume the role of Mobius 1 on your mission, leading your squadron and allies to destroy the asteroid-killing railgun array turned superweapon, it really invokes a feeling of, we're taking it to him.
Stonehenge is responsible for the loss of many aces. We're in need of new heroes. Be sure to make it back in one piece.
Here's our chance for a little payback.
You've got the Erusians on their back foot and, with a swift blow, can eliminate their ability to enforce air superiority so easily, leaving them with no real advantage left in the conflict. It's at this moment that things seem to turn from you being on the defensive to being the aggressor.
Sky High here. We've confirmed via radar that Stonehenge was destroyed. But it looks like we've got company. My race is going in at Mach 2. Not to worry, our aces are faster than they are. You are all clear to engage.
After delivering the final blow to the weapon, Yellow Squadron and Mobius Squadron collide in the air, with the sole condition for mission success being to down one of the ace fighters. Once you do succeed in destroying one, you hear Yellow 13 himself over the radio asking,
Yellow 13 here. Anyone see Phil get out?
the girl that 13 raised to be an ace pilot, the girl that he loved and would do anything to protect, was dead.
That's a confirmed kill on a yellow. It's a complete victory for the good guys.
We get to see the ace quietly mourn the loss of his loved one, although, according to the narrator, he never openly expressed this to anyone.
He was alone, quietly gazing at the handkerchief Yellow 4 left behind. When he felt my eyes upon him, he said, "No matter what, she can't complain. She went up with her plane in disrepair. Pilots are responsible for their planes." He then went on and spoke of the time when they first met. He spoke of when she was just a girl, before he trained her, before she became a fighter pilot. His words weren't directed at me in particular. He was keeping a precious memory alive by speaking those words. The hint of perfume on her keepsake handkerchief.
He praised the pilot who destroyed Stonehenge.
Yellow 13 posted an Allied paper faxed over by headquarters. It praised the pilot who destroyed Stonehenge. 13 said to everyone, "Look, here's something worthy of praise. Even among the enemy there are men like this."
He knew that he had finally found a worthy opponent. The Allies continue their forward push, eventually arriving at San Sebastian, the town that the narrator and Yellow Squadron, after being stationed there, called home.
Various explosions and reports from the fighters can be heard. Where's Yellow Squadron?
Yellow 13 is mysteriously absent during the fighting here as we liberate the town, striking a devastating blow against the Erusian forces.
Now we can shout victory is ours.
Singing. The town was free at last. After what seemed like a long absence, Allied aircraft soared overhead.
Oh, and by the way, if you're enjoying my content, be sure to like and subscribe for more in the future. Your offensive campaign continues, pushing further and further until finally, the time comes to attack Brabante itself, the capital of Erusia. You mow through the Erusian forces, even destroying a large chunk of their command staff and defenseless ospreys as they attempt to flee before the final confrontation with Yellow Squadron, who arrives to make a last-ditch effort to defend the city.
Mobius 1, 5 aircraft are closing in at high speed. It's the Yellow Squadron. Looks like they've come to make a last stand for Erusia. Let's settle this once and for all.
Victory only comes by shooting down all 5 of them, and it can actually be a challenging fight. I died on my first attempt. Prior to that, my only death had come from accidentally crashing into the ground while reaching for a drink. Now, I was only playing on normal difficulty, so take that as you will. On my second attempt, though, I succeeded.
You're in gun range. That's a kill. Great job. There are no aircraft remaining on radar.
It was a bittersweet feeling knowing that one of the fighters I had just downed was Yellow 13. I had grown to respect the man through the course of the war. The cutscene that followed only reinforced that feeling.
Yellow 13's body vanished into the blue skies, never to return to Earth. Only a single handkerchief fluttered down from the sky where he disappeared. The faint scent of perfume. The barkeep's daughter and I had followed the squadron this far. Each of us had our own thoughts as we buried that handkerchief. It no longer mattered to me whether that was 13 or 4's grave. Their memories blurred together as one, and left the realm of reality like a dream. The terms of surrender were accepted that day, and the war was over.
That was it. The war was over. It was finished. Or was it? There was only one mission left, the destruction of Megalith, another Erusian superweapon. It was designed to weaponize asteroid fragments in orbit around the Earth, and had the capability to strike fragments in such a way that their impact points on Earth could be calculated, allowing Erusia to cause devastating damage on the nuclear scale wherever they so wished.
Preparations are complete, ready for battle. All aircraft follow Mobius 1. Mobius 1.
The game's finale has a very Ace Combat feel, requiring the player to navigate their aircraft through a series of tunnels that seem very reminiscent of a Death Star trench run in order to strike at several key components of the superweapon before finally destroying the large missile contained inside, completing its destruction. Somehow, though, this didn't feel like the true end of the game to me. Without having the worthy opponent that was Yellow 13, it didn't feel right. On one hand, this incentivizes me to go back and play through the game on harder difficulties so I can face him in combat once more, but on the other, the end result is always the same: the total destruction of Yellow Squadron and its ace leader. Maybe since his body was never recovered, it means that he's still out there somewhere. I hope one day we'll find out. Seeing him return in a future Ace Combat title would be incredible. What did you think of Ace Combat 4? Is it your favorite game in the series, or does Ace Combat 0 or even another title take the cake? Let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching. This is Jarbo Gaming. We'll see you on the next one.